basking in it for the last 30 minutes. My God. I feel like a seafront village after the Vikings have left.
And that starts with the person who created Indiana Jones, George Lucas. The person who is Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. And the person who is the glue to all 5 of these films that gave us all of our rhythm and all of our melody, the great maestro, John Williams.
So this video of Spielberg basically kicking Kennedy and Marshall in the face in the front of the entire Hollywood cadre was the moment that Kennedy's tenure in Hollywood was over. And, you know, was he told to do it by Robert Iger? I don't know. I assume they talked. I assume that Spielberg obviously wasn't happy with the final product of Indiana Jones 5. Again, it wasn't as bad as Black Pills have said. You know, I look at some people and say, did we see the same movie? But it also wasn't as good as it should have been. And the character arc for Indy was upside down, or backwards. He should have started out where he ended before Helena punches him. And she should have been, her disappearance should have been the catalyst for Indy to go on a mission to find her and to find the rest of the Antikythera device. Okay. But we got what we got. And I didn't walk away, you know, like flying high like usual from an Indiana Jones film, but I didn't walk away wanting to kill somebody either. But the movie's probably going to lose more than $100 million. It might even be the biggest box office loser of all time. Okay, because of Kathleen Kennedy. Because of her inability to rein in a budget, her inability to let storytellers do what they do best, tell stories, and her need to assert herself dominantly over what was there before. When you look at everything from TFA and the way that Harrison Ford was so brutally treated in that movie, to TLJ, where Mark Hamill was bullied into the fetal position and Carrie Fisher wasn't healthy enough to stand up for herself, it's pretty obvious just who was resentful of whom. And she used ruining these characters. Luke Skywalker is a stand-in for George. That's where the name came from, Luke. And what she let Rian Johnson do to him was a punch in the face to George. Okay, this woman is resentful of the men, and she never had a chance to do things on her own until now, and she did a lousy job. And, you know, Bob Iger probably asked her to resign, and she wouldn't. And he couldn't fire her for cause. I still want to look at him and go, what made you want to sign her to another contract if you knew you couldn't fire her for cause? After the fiasco behind Rogue One, which I'm not sure made money. Okay, I think the only movie that Kennedy actually made that made money was probably TFA. That's it. Okay, and that was when she murdered Han Solo like a villain and turned him into a drunk deadbeat dad. That was the moment everybody should have said, I'm done, I'm out, what the fuck? But we had hope because George always told us to have hope, and if you believe in God and, you know, believe in your fellow humanity, you have hope. And we honestly all thought there was a reason for doing what she did, and there wasn't. The sequel trilogy had no plan. It's jackassery, fuckery on steroids. It's 2 movies made by a person who might actually be able to film things, But J.J. Abrams, as a storyteller of tentpole movies, keep him the fuck away, because he is an ignorant moron about telling stories. Rian Johnson, he's a terrorist. All you gotta do is look at how he treated the actor that played Admiral Akbar. He made the guy cry. He made Mark Hamill cry. And Kathy loved it. The movie only made $1.3 billion. Now you're all gonna say, well, it made over $1 billion. Who gives a shit? All right? In the world where a movie, you're gonna have over 20 movies making $1 billion, $1 billion is no longer really a benchmark. All right, 1.3 is a benchmark. But even then, the movie lost, 72% of its audience in the first week, because of word of mouth was, you can't believe what they did to Luke. And then all the Reylo shit that Kennedy loved, because she's probably a fan of that insipid, vacuous dumpster fire, vampire Twilight shit. But let's talk about this further, and let's see where this goes. Because there are reasons why we're not going to see a big flowery announcement, even though I think being afraid of the wokesters right now is a silly thing. Actually, I think people would rally around Iger, and I mean the fans. So, but let's talk about why this is going on and why she's to blame.
You have done that yourself.
So, Kathleen Kennedy started out in Hollywood working with John Milius as his secretary. Then she went and worked for Steven Spielberg as his secretary. And then he made her an assistant producer. And then she was a producer and then an executive producer. She climbed the ladder of success. She married Frank Marshall. But there's always been, I think, in my opinion, a cloud over her because of the Twilight Zone. Her husband was the one that ran away after the Twilight Zone investigation started because he was the one that hired the children. They've always attached themselves to big names like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Here she is with George. Here she is in the early days. It looks like Raiders of the Lost Ark, talking with George, or Steven and her husband right there. You would think that she would have learned something from these guys, as they were magnificent storytellers and creatives. But in her 11 years at Lucasfilm, the only thing really creative that was ever accomplished, and I mean, Rogue One is a passable movie. It's fine. I think it's the only one that she made that was fine. The only stuff for Star Wars, though, that was actual good Star Wars, is The Mandalorian. And, I like Kenobi. I don't see anything wrong with it. I thought Boba Fett was fine. But I take umbrage at Andor. But this is, they were made by other people, okay? Not by Kathy Kennedy and her crew. Her crew is the High Republic, which is being canceled, okay? Her crew is The Last Jedi, which is spurned openly by most Star Wars fans, okay? Her crew is The Rise of Skywalker, which is, I mean, I tried to watch it, and I'm like, what the fuck? So, when Iger sent those 5 guys down, the Horsemen, who are now, I think, wrapping up their time up in Marin County with Lucasfilm, that Thursday that Indiana Jones dropped, and she was suspended from her email, that should have been a message, and all of Hollywood knows. If a THR reporter can basically say it without being detailed, she's done, she's done. Okay, they've gone under a forensic financial audit because of where the hell they get the money for The Acolyte. I guarantee you that Leslie Headland threw her under the bus. which is why this is all going on now. They got what they wanted from Headland, and now it's time for Kathy to face the music. Okay, but they're going under a financial audit, not just because of that, but because of credit card, business card abuse, which isn't their money. That's Disney's money, and other things. I mean, I'm sure that the lawsuit over the Acolyte $5,000 payment to Karen McCarthy, which is just what, is when you look at the details of that, it's unfathomable. And I'm a housewife in Pennsylvania, and I know you don't do that. Oh wait, I used to work for the House Majority Leader. Of course I know you don't do shit like that. All right, you give people a severance package, or a package, a parting package, I would say, something like that, that keeps them quiet, happy, and they go on with their little lives. Okay, but they didn't do that. And they're now paying for it with, I would say, humiliation on the part of Kennedy, because she's going to be blamed for whatever comes out of this. She can't escape it. And I'm sure that there's going to be a settlement, if there hasn't been already, made with Karen McCarthy, but the Acolyte, it looks to me, will never see the light of day. They'll talk about it, and it'll be memory hold until people stop talking about it, okay? And the people who want to see it, too bad. Now, the credit card issue is part of the reason why Kennedy is being quietly moved out, gone, leaving Hollywood, probably. Part of her responsibility was to make sure that Lucasfilm's finances were kosher, were, on the up and up, books are balanced. And those people, it sounds like, were partying like rock stars on Disney's dime, and that can't have made Bob Iger and the Four Horsemen of the Bob-apocalypse happy at all. Okay, I can't even imagine what Iger and the rest of them thought when it came out that what they were doing with Lucasfilm funds. So, how do we know Kennedy's out? Well, as I said before, the five horsemen basically smiled and said, Kennedy's not going to be in Hollywood much longer. She's selling her house. It's likely that they're moving her stuff out of Lucasfilm now, or maybe later this week, I don't know, but their boxes showed up, and a new interim leader will be named, and it'll probably be somebody that we know. And no, it's not going to be George, but I think a lot of people will be very happy. And the Black Pills are going to be angry because it'll never be good enough for them. And we just got to get used to the whining, crying, ranting, and raving of these people. But you got to remember, in the end, this woman's hubris and her resentment of this man, and the fact that she and her husband, to me, it never really looked like they were in the inner circle. Okay? It was when you looked at what was going on the stage at Indiana Jones 5 in Los Angeles, the people that mattered were George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Harrison Ford, and John Williams. And that's it. And that's what should matter. So, she's now going to live with the rest of her life realizing that trying to erase George Lucas's career erased her career. And the only time anybody's going to think of her, if they ever do think of her, is Indiana Jones being the biggest bomb in box office history. And that is a shame, because it's bad. It's not a reflection on Harrison, even at his age. It's not a reflection on Spielberg or Lucas. It's on her, and her alone, and her husband. And this is why you get Cheshire Cat grins from the Five Horsemen saying she's not going to be in Hollywood much longer. So, guys, I guess this is it. And we may get an announcement in October when her contract is done. Or we may get an announcement next year in October when her contract is done. Because, frankly, no one knows when her contract will be done. This October, next October, who cares? Who knows? It's over. Kathleen Kennedy is done. This is Steph, signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.